name's Kistin Gunnis and I'm the founder of Professional Women's Lunches. Today we're going to talk about visibility, profiling and networking. And firstly, I wanted to share a little bit about myself. So I come from a corporate background, having worked for a number of organisations, both here in Australia and also internationally. The last role I had prior to me starting my own business, I was a global operations manager for Verizon, who is the American telco. So I have grown up in businesses and very much have a very thin layer of knowledge, but on lots and lots of subjects. A little bit about me. I love handbags and shoes, as you can see, and through my travels I've collected a lot of those. I love cups of tea. I can't go through the day without numerous ones of those. I love Jacksons and can't wait to get a couple of those. I'm a voracious reader. I have a Fire Kindle, and there's always lots of books on my Kindle, and you can see in the background I've got a lot of books as well. And with my Professional Women's Lunches business, I get together with women and do like to talk and support other people. So I've also travelled a lot. These are just the places that I've travelled so far, and I'm sure that I'll be able to travel to a lot more places as I continue through the rest of my life. So let's get into visibility. One of the things that I do like to get people to do when I work with them is look at your own profile. It's really important for you to look at your profile and from your perspective first, but then you also need to look at how you are perceived by others. And sometimes there is a very big gap. And that's not always a bad thing. And it's good to do this on a regular basis. So sometimes sit down with people who you can trust, who are going to give you a very good view of just the differences between what you see of yourself versus how they see you. And it's really important to do this. And it just could be little things that you need to understand. And it could be that if you're potentially, when I used to do this myself, working in corporate environments, it's how my brand looked or how I was perceived by others and how I was doing my own work. If you're running your own business, it's really important to see how your clients see you compared to how you see yourself. And then you may need to tweak certain things. It's a bit like doing a customer satisfaction survey at the end of the day. Sometimes there is that gap and you do need to bring the two together. At the moment, there's 5 different generations in the workforce, and that does bring great opportunity, and it also brings some differences that we need to manage. It brings differences where we see and manage each other, but also how we interact with each other. I know, having led graduate programs myself, quite often I didn't quite understand some of the millennial groups and how they actually came out of university or saw things, but it was also just the way that I had grown up and seen things. You see many young children now who have got an iPad in front of them and they quickly move through that iPad and they can very instantaneously learn from it, whereas many of us who haven't grown up that way, it takes us a bit longer to get used to technology. Reverse mentoring is a really good way to learn from younger individuals, especially when we're looking at the spread of clients that we may have for our businesses. All of our client bases are diverse, and this is the benefit of the 5 different generations. So it's nice to then see what else is out there. What can we learn from these different generations? And I think reverse mentoring is actually a very good thing. And we know that large organisations, their CEOs have a number of reverse mentoring programs in place. So CEOs are getting a very good idea of what is the diversity of their client base. So I recommend actually looking at whether you can gain some experience from perhaps the younger generation if you're not already doing that, but vice versa. I think the younger generation can actually learn an awful lot from ourselves as we're going through life because we've had a lot more experience. There is a very big difference between mentor, sponsor, and coach, and many of you probably already know this. So I'll just quickly walk all over this and move through it quickly. So a mentor is somebody who can just give their own experiences, what they've actually gone through in their own life, and give an analogy of it. A coach is somebody who's going to ask you a lot of questions and give you a way for you to find their own way forward, whereas a sponsor is actually going to go out on a limb for you, and there is an expectation that you will come back and actually provide a guarantee in some way, shape or form that you actually have it covered and that you're going to do the best that you can and move forward and get that done. But in the meantime, it's a bit of a two-way street, I think, with sponsorship. So networking, let's get on to this. Networking is around degrees of separation. There was 6. For some people, it's as little as 2.6 now. For some, it's as little as 1. I met somebody recently who their biggest sort of goal was to actually be one person away from Bono, and they were actually pretty close to getting to that. Your network actually has value to you and others. I've heard that the magic number is around 5,000 people, and that's when you can start to actually make money off of your network. Networking should also be strategic. So you need to have goals around building a network, and you need to have a connection plan. And it's really important around that. And once you see how I view networking, you'll understand why you have to have goals and why you need a connection plan. So if I look at myself, and we'll use LinkedIn as an example because it's really important to look at this. It has really good algorithms in the back end, and it actually is how networking actually works. So, and that's why they've built it that way. So this is how what I call the bullseye effect, or the target. And so you put yourself in the center. So you're sitting there in the middle. And then that first ring, or what LinkedIn calls the first connections, is everybody that you know personally. The second ring, which is called what LinkedIn calls seconds, is everybody that they know. And then with the third ring, it's again what LinkedIn calls those third connections, and everybody else is outside of that. Now, when I actually put this deck together, I made note of some numbers. So originally in November the 12th, I had 693 connections in LinkedIn. My numbers are around 890 now in April. So it doesn't take long to actually get more people into your firsts. The numbers are fairly staggering, and what we do is we can calculate most, on average, you get around 500 people with most individuals have 500 as their average. If you have 500 and everybody in your first have 500, you get about 225,000 people in that second ring. If you then again take the 225,000 and you then times that by 500, you get quite a staggering number. And my maths is terrible this morning. You get about 112 million people that you can potentially gain access to as part of whether it be a prospecting list, people who may be able to help you when you need answers, or just when you need a specialised skill set. So it's really important to build these connections and keep in touch with them and be very personalised about it. The other thing that's really important that a lot of people don't even know is that within LinkedIn, you can actually do a view of your seniority, your location, and your industry information. So what you're seeing on the screen at the moment is based on my profile. It's associated with how my connections set it up within LinkedIn. So you can actually see how my profile is associated with my connections. So the seniority is really important. You need a very diverse network so that you can actually look at people and go, well, I need to know people who are at a decision-making level, but I also need people who are at a lower level who can make introductions at different types of environments, who can make that stepping stone and who have got that trust and relationship, but also have other sorts of relationships that you might not know, or they might have information. People have got different positions and they always have different information no matter where they work. Industries is really important as well. A recent analogy, which is really cool to learn about, is you can't have people within the same industry. You're not going to get business that way. I had a woman that I sat down with and she was looking to leave her business, leave the organisation she was working in and looking to start her own business. But when we looked at this profile, all of the people that she knew were in the same industry that she was in. And when I asked the question, who is actually going to give you business? She sort of realised, oh, well, that's actually not a great idea because they're going to be fighting over potential clients. And so she had to rethink that, or at least go out and try to build a whole new sort of network. Regions. Depending on what your business is, where are the people that you've got? Where are your connections? Where are you getting business from? I have a really diverse network in different places because I've worked internationally. So that can show. And I will be doing a live demonstration into LinkedIn so that you can actually see this information and how to get it. So networking, you need to have goals. How can you possibly keep connected to 500 people? I do find it difficult. And then how do you build on top of that? It's really quite difficult. And I sort of break my people down into 4 quadrants. There's those people that you keep in contact with because you're going out for coffee with them on a regular basis. And then there's those people that you don't potentially keep in contact with as much. You might be going out once a quarter. So you sort of need to prioritise these people into a list and work out how often do you connect with them. What are the types of communications that you're going to connect through to them with? And then how do you get new connections and why are you getting new connections to them? Therefore, the strategic reasoning behind this. Then referrals. Referrals are really important because they build up trust within your entire network. I actually view networking as a very karmic environment. It's most important that you're keeping that level of trust up with everybody. And as you build your profile, you need to identify people in your first connections who can then refer you to a second connection, but you need to be able to do that vice versa. So for example, for myself, I'm consistently out meeting people for coffee because that's my business. But then I'll actually put 2 people together. So I'll come back to my computer and if I think somebody in Sydney needs something because I've spoken to them and I've remembered that, yes, they actually require something, but yet I've met somebody in Brisbane or I've spoken to them on the phone, I might actually connect them via a LinkedIn email because I've got them both as first. And so I'll make that connection for them and it'll be personal because I've reached out to them and I've extended that level of trust for them. And so the 2 will come together and then I'll leave them to make the next step. It's always up to them to make the next step, but I've done that first connection for them. So a connection plan can just be as simple as this. It can be a date, it can be what type of event or activity, who's the connection name and what type of goal, and then any type of note. You can keep it in a spreadsheet, whatever it is. You can get as complex as creating avatars, which are those profiles that you use in marketing to say, well, this is what I'm looking for. These are the types of client bases that I've got. These are the types of people that I'm talking to. And so therefore, these are the types of communications that I'm going to be sending, whether it be a newsletter, whether it's going to be a post or a blog or different types of communications. but you need to have some sort of plan so that it's a regular process, and some of these people you'll need to keep in regular contact with. So we've got some templates and we'll be making those available to you. But what I'd really like to get into now is showing you how to use the system in LinkedIn from a real-time perspective, and how you can actually go and look at this information. So I'll just quickly move over to LinkedIn. Okay, so we've got LinkedIn here. So what we'll have a look at first is if you want to see the profile associated with seniority, location, and industry, firstly you would go to profile and you would go to your updates, and then you go to your followers. Oh, it's 860, sorry, not 890. That's my bad. And as you can see here, this is your network sort of profile, and it's based on significantly, statistically significant numbers based on your entire, both people who are following you and also your first connection. And so you just literally roll your mouse over the top and it'll give you that information. And so it tells you what's going on with regards to all of your connections. So that's the first thing. The second thing that's really, really interesting to use is the advanced search. And not many people, I think, use this to their advantage. So if you wanted to create a prospecting list, or you actually wanted to extend your network a lot further, there's a really great way to do that, and it's all about how do I better use my advanced network. So as you can see here, it does bring up the pop-up box. I'm going to use a live experience. I was at an event in Brisbane last year, and one of the women that I have in my network is an insurance broker. And for her business, she has a product where it's a insurance product for investors of property. So one of the things we worked through and said, well, okay, who do we sell to? It's real estate agents. So we would actually come into the keyword search and put real estate in here. And it was in Brisbane, so what we're going to do is actually go and say, let's go and search in Australia, and we'll put a postcode search of 4,000, and we're going to say, let's put it within 15 kilometres, and then we'll actually search. Now, as we can see here, the search results that we get back are based on my own personal network. All search results will be different based on your own network. And we can see here that we're getting 15,830 results. Now, that's way too many from a prospecting list perspective for you to then go out and meet each one of those differently. So then let's be a little smarter about this. Who actually makes the purchase decision at a real estate? It's the principal. So then we come down here and we go, okay, who's the principal? And we go current, because we want those people who are currently in that job, not the people who used to be in the job. And we go search. And as you can see here, it brings the search results down to a really good basis of what can we do. Now, as you can see, all of these people have got second in here. So that's really, really good, because what we can instantaneously do is work out, how are they connected to me? Who is the person who is the first that's connected to me? And this is where it gets, where the algorithms are, you can use them to your advantage. So we'll just look at this particular individual. Now, you can either use the private settings so that he doesn't see that you're looking at him. I don't usually worry about that. If they can see that I'm looking at them, that's fine from my perspective. But as you can see here, this particular individual is the person that's connecting us. So what I would then do is I would ring this individual, or I would send them an email and say, can you make a personal introduction to me to this person? Can you either take us out for coffee? Can you extend some sort of introduction? I would explain what I'm trying to do and why I'm trying to do it. And by them extending that introduction, that's the trust that they've got with the relationship between both of us, that makes it work a lot better rather than you just sending a LinkedIn email. And I think that's what works a lot better. There's a higher likelihood of the person actually then responding rather than an email. And that's what I've found in my experience. So these are just some of the things that you can use based on this. You can use the same thing in Facebook. It's a little bit more difficult in Facebook, but the same sorts of processes apply. It's about you understanding your network, knowing it a little bit better, making sure that you understand the people that you've got and being more strategic with each of these people. At the end of the day, they're still people, and it's about having those personal relationships with them and then working through with them so that it makes sense as to why you want to be connected with them. None of us want to be fake. At the end of the day, it's really important that we are giving in the approach that we have with somebody else and that we're working through with them. This is sort of going to wrap up pretty much what I'm talking about with regards to visibility and strategy and networking. But if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, and you can contact me. My details are available through Seniorpreneurs. And thanks very much for joining us today at today's webinar.